the biggest flops in gaming. That is what we're going to be talking about today, okay? And understand this, when we're talking about flops in gaming, that can be anything from the absolutely disastrous launch of Cyberpunk 2077, the near IP destroyer that was Battlefield 2042, and a game that I'm legitimately confused on how it was legal to release, that being The Day Before, and many, many more, okay? Listen, Highguard just released, and yeah, I'm not, my opinion on that's not going to be in this video, depending on when this video comes out. It's either just got uploaded or it's going to get uploaded. I want to do some, like, more videos where I just cover, like, one very specific subject, but I was in the mood to talk about gaming flops, and that's kind of how this video came to be. Okay, if you enjoy this video, please consider like, comment, and subscribe. We are trying to get to 500,000 subscribers before the end of the year. That is the goal. And with all that out of the way, let's get into the video. Let's go. The Day Before. The Day Before was an indie game that was being hyped up to be like the post-apocalyptic zombie game to rule all zombie games. And I'm gonna be real here, dog. Y'all forget, The Day Before had gameplay and reveal trailers that were so good that everybody, this was the #1 wish-listed game on Steam. I need you to understand that. The Day Before, okay, was the most wish-listed game on the entirety of Steam for a time. And the closer we got to the release, the sketchier it got, okay? But you think to yourself, okay, well, it can't be that bad. Okay, who made this game? What do you mean they've never made a game anything like this? And the last game that they made was a game that flopped, and they just pulled all support from it. Okay, that's kind of weird. Well, I mean, like, I'm sure they're gonna release some copies for people to review. No, they didn't. They didn't release any. Okay, well, I'm sure there's gonna be more info going out. No, none. Like, not at all. And then The Day Before comes out, and it is literally a cell of its former self, okay? This game was looking like one of the greatest zombie games to ever be made, and then it comes out. There's basically PNG and JPEG files that are coming at you. It is one of the most unpleasant gaming experiences of all time, and it is the only game on this list that has done something. The Rad Brad, the GOAT of the single-player playthroughs. This is the only game in his UFC in his YouTube career that he has ever returned. You know your game is doo-doo when the Rad Brad returns it. Brother, I'm sorry. That is absolutely absurd to me, bro. The Day Before is going to go in an absolutely massive flop. However, the reason it's not going to go in the biggest of flops is the biggest of flops means that you lost money on this. And The Day Before, I think, actually made a profit. Like, the amount of money that was used to make the game was actually significantly less than the money that they made on pre-orders. So, this game's essentially a rug pull, allegedly. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say, but I'm gonna put it in a massive flop. But it is not the biggest flop. Cyberpunk 2077. Yes, I do count Cyberpunk 2077 as a flop. You wanna know why? PS4 version never got fixed. That version of the game is literally scattered into nothingness. That game is gone. Completely different game than what was on the PS5. And I understand, like, the PS4 is a big limiter in gameplay design, which is why I harp on it that no game should be $70 if it runs on a PS4, because the world of difference from Cyberpunk on a PS4 to Cyberpunk on a PS5 should be the key point that I use to illustrate to you the difference between current gen and last gen. Cyberpunk 2077 was a game that was announced back when E3 was a thing, by the way. Cyberpunk 2077 was unveiled at an E3, and this is coming up after CD Projekt Red was basically doing their victory lap after The Witcher 3. And this is something that I've noticed. After a gaming developer gets really confident after a big gaming release, they kind of start getting in their bag. Now, Cyberpunk 2077 is a game that isn't as bad as some other ones that we're going to talk about on here, but CD Projekt Red was all up in their bag on this, okay? They were hyping it up, they were sewing it behind closed doors. Brother, y'all forget, Cyberpunk 2077 was getting massive hype. And then the game releases, and it is one of the biggest, buggiest messes to ever be released. Brother, this game was so bad on release that they had to pull it from the PlayStation Store dishonest advertising. Brother, do you have any idea how bad your game has to be for Sony to pull it from the PlayStation Store and say, yo, bro, this feels like a scam? The only other game, to my knowledge, that this has ever happened for is Mind's Eye. Cyberpunk 2077 and Mind's Eye were so bad on launch that they were comparable to each other. Now, what happened? Okay, Cyberpunk 2077 had a little anime called The Edge Runners, and it got a lot of people back into the game. And then that basically reinvigorated the sales. They released one of the greatest DLCs to ever come out for a video game. So CD Projekt Red does good when they're supporting their games. Okay, that I gotta give them respect for. However, I will never pre-order another game from CD Projekt Red. Never in my life will I ever pre-order another game for them. Why? It is astonishing that that game was allowed legally to release in that state, because it barely was. I need you to understand this. CD Projekt Red and Mind's Eye have something in common. They released a product in such a horrific state that they almost legally got in trouble for it. I am putting this in a very rough start, okay? The game's amazing now, and if it released in that state, it probably would have won Game of the Year. But oh my goodness, let's not brush past just how bad of a game it was when it originally came out, and frankly still is for the PS4. Rough start, no question. Battlefield 2042. How do you take an entire IP that was already down into the lowest that it's ever been, okay, after Battlefield Hardline? And then you had a few, like World War I and World War II games that ended up doing pretty well. Like, I gotta give it that respect, okay? But then we have Battlefield 2042, another future shooter, okay? And this game was getting some people in. They were in their bag. They were getting hyped for it. And then it comes out, absolutely servers are awful, buggy mess. The game's just frankly not that fun. And then people just forget about it. Battlefield 2042 was such a bad game for the franchise that it almost got rid of the entire franchise and shelved it indefinitely. We nearly got a reboot, but Battlefield 6 came out of nowhere and started getting people back into the franchise. And I know review-wise it's not the best, but it got people back into the gaming scene. And at the end of the day, that's... like, Battlefield has now returned back to baseline, because as good as Battlefield 6 is, that just returns it back to where we were before Battlefield 2042. Battlefield 2042 was such a horrifically buggy and just unpleasant gaming experience on launch that it was never able to recover since then. Don't even get me started with microtransactions, my man. I am going to put Battlefield 2042 in a certified flop, absolutely no question. I'm going to put it right there. And it never really did recover after that. Fallout 76. Oh, well, it's in a good state now. Stop judging it years after it came out. I'm sorry, bro. Okay, this is what I mean. There are certain problems in the gaming, like in the gaming sphere, that I do believe that I have to stop caring about it, because I realize that most people don't care. When I say you guys, I don't mean y'all watching this. I think you guys watching this agree with me. However, dude, I'm sorry, most gamers do not care the state that their game is released in. I am convinced of that. They do not care if a game is unplayable. I'm starting to get to that point where they just do not care. Because the amount of people that'll play Monday Morning Quarterback years after the game came out. What was it, like 5 years ago the game came out, by the way? Like, wasn't it like 5? Okay. Fallout 76, online Fallout game, okay? Releases in such a awful state that it is unplayable. I'm sorry. Dude, like, well, it's unplayable. Okay, then play a different game. Brother, if I buy a game that is unplayable, the people that made it, if it's unplayable for a vast majority of people, we need to stop normalizing it, and that criminally needs to be illegal. Bethesda should have been sued for the state that this game was in on its release. There's absolutely no excuse for that. You're a multi-million-dollar gaming developer and publisher. Why is the game in this state? That is absolutely unbelievable. But I will say this. Through the absolute divine intervention of the gaming lords above, the Fallout TV show managed to bring people back into the Fallout IP. And let me tell you something. Bethesda had no faith in that Fallout series. Why? They had no Fallout games ready. What caused the resurgence in Fallout 76? The Fallout TV show. Now, to give them credit, they were able to fix a large portion of the bugs to the point where the game is decent. I'm not going to say it's like a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. It's like a 7. It's like a pretty decent gaming experience right now. On release, it was like a 3 out of 10. Like, practically unplayable, and in some cases, just unplayable. This game, I'm just going to be real with you. Now we're starting to get bad. We're trying to get back to it, but this game was just bad on release, okay? Like, it was just bad. Now people are starting to come back to it, and we might get a Cyberpunk 2077, but Cyberpunk 2077 is just a better game than Fallout 76. That is why this is it's going here. I think it's like a perfect in-between. Anthem. Dude. Anthem was the game that literally brother, let me tell you, some of the let me give you some Ethan lore really quick, okay? The most pivotal moments in my, consuming of entertainment, okay, is I stopped trusting critic scores after Star Wars The Last Jedi, okay? For movies, I stopped, right when Star Wars The Last Jedi came out, y'all forget, Star Wars The Last Jedi was one of the highest reviewed Star Wars movies of all time critically. It had a 93 on Rotten Tomatoes critically. The very next day after I watched it, it went all the way down to a 70. I will never trust critic scores ever again. I just don't. Oh yeah, no. I will side with an audience score on Rotten Tomatoes infinitely more than I trust critics because of how bad they got that. Now, when we go to video games, bro, I'm sorry. Anthem is the reason I will almost never trust a gameplay trailer that somebody other than the people involved show off. The Anthem looked like literally the greatest game ever made. You got to be in an Iron Man suit on a Pandora-esque planet, okay? And it was absolutely peak, made by the people who made Mass Effect. And this was meant to be BioWare's way of getting back in the good graces. This game releases, it is absolutely awful, a shell of its, not even former self, a shell of what the game promised. An absolutely bomb so horrifically bad, literally microtransaction-infused hellscape. EA was definitely the publisher on that puppy. And then what happened? They pulled the plug on it last month. I'm not kidding. At the time of this recording, Anthem just got old support completely pulled from it, and that game is effectively gone. So yeah, bro, I'm sorry. I will never trust BioWare again. I'm sorry, bro. We're gonna be covering another game on here. Actually, no, we had 3 BioWare games in a row, right? Coming up in a second. I am putting Anthem in one of the biggest flops I've ever seen, but it is not. Actually, wait a minute. I'm going to move this down because there is one that does deserve the biggest flop. Anthem goes in massive flop. I think that's a fair placement. You'll know what I mean in a second. Mass Effect Andromeda. Mass Effect Andromeda was the start of the end for BioWare. I need you to understand this. BioWare was literally among the biggest, greatest gaming developers in the entirety of the scene after releasing the Mass Effect trilogy, okay? And then they come out with Mass Effect Andromeda as a way of bringing back the series. And it came back, and this is a hot take. If Mass Effect Andromeda had the problems that it did on launch, but it released today, it would be considered an average gaming experience because I do believe the expectation overall for how games are on day one is down here now. But when this game released, oh my goodness, everything looked completely goofy, and the game, frankly, was just like a lesser of the entirety of the Mass Effect saga. And I'm going to be real here, dog. When you're comparing it with literally everything else on this list, it's not the biggest offender. Mass Effect Andromeda was not an awful game, but oh my goodness, was it the worst of every single Mass Effect game and started the downfall of BioWare from one of the greatest gaming developers in the scene to if I see them develop a game, I automatically don't care about it. I'm putting Mass Effect Andromeda in a flop. It flopped! Age The Veilguard. Okay, here's another core moment. I stopped caring about, like, major game reviewers. Like, I'll take a look, and I'm not saying they're always wrong, but I always take what, like, critic reviews say with a grain of salt. And I think I've given my take on how I view, like, games journalists and game critics. It's not that game critics are bad, but I unironically, like, trust, like, certain YouTubers more than I trust gaming critics. And I think that's how it should be, okay? I think if you want somebody to review a game, find a YouTuber or, like, somebody that has a similar, like, taste in games than that you do, and then from there you can kind of figure out, like, hey, is he gonna like this game? Okay, like, for example, I am not a big fan of Baldur's Gate 3, but I'm a huge Elden Ring fan. I love Expedition 33. Everybody has their own taste in games. Not everybody is going to be able to have an objective review, because objective reviews don't really exist. Now, with all that being said, IGN giving Dragon Age Veilguard a 9 out of 10, an almost perfection, is so hilariously bad that the only way that I think that, like, I don't think they receive money. No. It has to be something political. Maybe they thought that, like, Veilguard was getting hated on by, like some weirdos that they didn't agree with politically. Okay, and that's what they thought it was, and they didn't want to be, like in the same argument as them. Like, they didn't want to agree with Asmongold, that they literally just put out a worse take than what Asmongold was saying. I'm sorry, saying Dragon Age Veilguard is an awful game is a better take than saying it's a 9 out of 10! That is unbelievable! Like, I'm sorry, like, Dragon Age Veilguard at absolute best is just an average gaming experience. 9 out of 10 is egregious! That's unbelievable! That blows my mind that somebody could give that review and stand by it. And this is what I will say. Part of the reason that I trust, like, YouTubers that review games more than, like, gaming journalists is that if you review a game, I want to see your face. I want to see your face. I want to know everything that you've ever reviewed. I want a full resume of everything that you've ever played, everything that you've ever reviewed, and I want that right there, and I can just pull it up at all. The problem is when you're going with IGN, like, there's so many different reviewers that are reviewing different games with different type of biases, with different type of subjective opinions, that it's all over the place. And let me tell you, crash out warning. The part that always gets me heated is when I talk about a hilariously bad review from IGN, or like any of them, but it's mostly IGN that has these reviews. I say, bro, IGN had an awful review on this, dude. That's that's egregious. Somebody will always come into that comment section and say, well, IGN didn't say that. It was the reviewer that said it. The reviewer works at IGN! Oh my goodness! Ooh! I don't get it! That's like one of the dumbest takes I've ever heard! Well, IGN didn't say it. The reviewer did. Who does the reviewer work for? Who does the I can't. Like, I don't even know what to say. I don't think Veilguard was an awful game. I think it was just painfully average to below average in certain scenes, and the dialogue was cringy at times. Oh, dude. I'm putting this in massive flop just out of this. I can't, bro. No more Dragon's Age games after that. And if that one does get made, IGN can't review it, bro. They just revoke their right to review the game, bro. Halo Infinite. Dude, Halo Infinite having literally the entirety of the Halo IP in its hand, and it comes out, and the campaign's not half bad. But they fumble the multiplayer so hilariously bad that there is straight up basically nothing for like the first year and a half of the game's come out. And then it finally comes back, and they have the audacity to be like, well, come back and play the multiplayer. I'm sorry, bro, okay? Halo fans saying, well, people play it for the campaign, the multiplayer's not that big of a deal, is like Call of Duty fans saying that nobody cares about a COD campaign. No, the Halo IP needs multiplayer to be relevant, and COD needs a campaign to be relevant. Bro, I'm sorry. That's one of the weirdest copes I've ever heard from the Halo fanbase. It is absolutely insane, and I just don't take that cope seriously. Brother, the Halo studio has fumbled every bit of momentum that this series has had to the point where we're just gonna not reboot, but like remake the entire series on Unreal Engine and give it to PlayStation. Like, that is what happened, and I love Halo, and it hurts me that this is happening to it. But at the same time, bro, I'm putting Halo Infinite. Honestly, bro. It flopped. It just flopped. And it's a good game, but it flopped because literally everything that they had just... Who cares? Put it in flopped. Skull and Bones. The first quadruple A game. Ubisoft. Like, I'm sorry, bro. Like, Ubisoft has now become the developer and has been the developer for a long time where I'm hyped for a game until I see that Ubisoft logo. The moment I see a Ubisoft logo, I immediately write the game off until they prove that they are worth buying. And I like some Ubisoft games. Far Cry 5 is one of my favorite Far Cry games of all time. And it's I love Far Cry 5. I think that's an amazing game. Skull and Bones basically being, hey, you remember Black Flag? Okay, well, imagine if we just did the pirate part of it and we do that worse. Do you think you like it? Brother, why would I want to play Skull and Bones if there's frankly other pirate MMOs that are to do everything that you do but better? I'm sorry, that's just such a dumb idea, and for you to literally make this your quadruple A game and just go after anybody that said anything negative about it for a while is just so astonishing to me. I'm sorry, Skull and Bones is going in a massive flop. I don't even really have to talk about it all that much because you guys just know. It's just become a meme at this point. Starfield. Okay. Starfield is a brand new IP coming out of Bethesda, and I feel like me making any video, there is always going to be the comments there. When is the Berserk lore? When is the tier list? I can kind of sympathize with Bethesda. Sometimes your mind goes in different areas and you want to do something else. However, at least if you're going to make a new game, better make that new IP good. You have the Fallout fans practically going rabid, and you have the Elder Scroll fans just thinking that they were forgotten like a child whose father just went out to go grab some milk. I'm sorry, that's how we're feeling as Bethesda fans, okay? So the game comes out for Xbox only. And the game does flop. It just does. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. The game just completely and utterly flopped. So, what do we go from here? The modding community gives up on Starfield completely and utterly. So, what do you do? You know what this proved to me? How much of Bethesda's games, Self-Life, is carried by the modding community, to the point that this is the only Bethesda game that I'm aware of where the modding community completely dropped it, and they're like, yeah, nah, good luck, you're on your own, and the game completely flops, to the point that now they're talking about re-releasing it in its complete state on PlayStation. Oh yeah, and Bethesda blamed the exclusivity on the reason why this game flopped. No, bro, the game was just frankly mid. It was literally just a worse version of No Man's Sky. I'm going to put this in... I'm going to put it in a flop. No Man's Sky. People forget, dude. No Man's Sky is the biggest redemption arc in the history of gaming. Cyberpunk 2077 is number 2 in that. No Man's Sky is an indie game that when it originally came out, completely and hilariously overpromised on every aspect of the game. And then the game comes out, and this is what I've never seen. I've never seen a game get, talked about, and they just straight up lied about the dumbest things. People forget, No Man's Sky was never meant to have multiplayer. No Man's Sky, when they originally talked about the game coming out, it was their spokesperson said that, yeah, this game's going to have multiplayer and you'll be able to see other players in the universe, but it's going to be very difficult because of how vast the universe is. And you find out the game has no internet connection. I need you to understand just how crazy that lie is. Imagine lying about seeing other players in multiplayer while you're playing the game, and the game doesn't have multiplayer. You would find out he was lying just by looking at the back of the case and finding out if it has multiplayer, and it just didn't. And then the game comes out, gets absolutely forgotten. And then the devs get to work. They absolutely rebuild this game from the ground up, turning it not just into what the game was supposed to be, but frankly a better version of this game. One of the best redemption arcs in the entirety of gaming, but oh my goodness, bro, did No Man's Sky had one of the roughest starts ever. Only comparable to a Cyberpunk 2077. But No Man's Sky is more impressive in my opinion. Why? It's an indie game. Indie games don't have this expectation. They just did it for the love of the game, and I'm putting it in a rough start. Concord, the biggest flop in the history of entertainment, with the development cost over its entire lifetime of, what was it, like $800 million if you accounted for them buying the studio. And this is the only game that studio was told to make for about 8 years of its life cycle. And then this is the only game that they ever just literally just out to you. And it cost upwards of $800 million across everything. And this is what they have to show for it. Brother, so many games had to get canceled for the sake of Concord. Concord, like, I need you to understand this. Concord being the flop of the century is so funny because of how much it represents, like, just the corporate, like I'll just say this right now. I know some people that will defend Concord, and it hurts my heart because people that defend Concord to me, it screams like corporate bootlicker. It screams that to me, and I just fundamentally don't respect that at all. I played Concord. I paid $40 for this thing, dude. I can ridicule it all I want. I played the game. It was hilariously mid. It was a game. Did it deserve to lose that much money? Brother, what are you talking about? It lost out on all of that because this game had the audacity to charge you $40 for what? For what? What was this game? It was a hero shooter that was 5 years too late, did absolutely nothing special, and it looked like a rejected cast from Guardians of the Galaxy. It was awful, bro. Get this out of here. $800 million gone, scattered to the wind. The biggest flop in the history of gaming, no question. And there you go. Those are the biggest flops in gaming. If you enjoyed this video, please consider like, comment, and subscribe. We are trying to get to 500,000 subscribers by the end of the year. That is going to be the goal. And depending on when this video comes out, check out my Veilguard little video that I talk about. It's kind of like a review, but also just me ranting about the whole situation. Because I do believe Veilguard got hit with some criticism that maybe isn't fair, and I should clear up a little bit here, okay? But that's going to be a video that's going to be coming out either before or after this one, depending on when this one comes out. Thank you, everybody who support the channel. It means the absolute most to me, and I will see you all in the next one. Adios, guys.